to watch now on BBC iPlayer.
Now on BBC One, the lunchtime news with Samantha Simmonds.
Good afternoon. 3 Brits are among the wounded after a car ploughed into tourists near a beach in Tel Aviv. An Italian man has died and the attacker was shot dead by police. It comes after 2 British-Israeli sisters were killed and their mother injured in a shooting in the occupied West Bank yesterday, in what's been a week of heightened tensions in the region. Our correspondent Lucy Williamson reports from Tel Aviv, and a warning her piece contains some distressing images.
Last night, Tel Aviv's holiday crowds became targets. This the moment when police surrounded the attacker and then shot him dead. You can hear the fear of people filming nearby. The driver was a 45-year-old man from a nearby town who drove his car into pedestrians, killing an Italian man named as Alessandro Parini and injuring 5 others, 3 of them British.
We heard gunfire. We saw shots and then we saw people sprinting across the street, and then we heard sirens and we decided it was time to get out of here.
Yeah.
Today, the car's journey through the grass is marked with flowers and candles, tributes to the tourist who died. This is where the attack happened last night, right on Tel Aviv's promenade. Hours afterwards, you've got locals and tourists already gathering here. On a warm weekend evening, this place would have been packed with people. One of the doctors treating the injured said some had broken bones and one a fractured spine. But an event like this leaves psychological wounds too.
I think that nobody is prepared ever for this type of situation. You know, it's impossible, I think, to understand the fact that somebody one day decides to take the life of another person.
This was the second attack to hit Israel yesterday. 2 British-Israeli women were killed in a shooting attack in the occupied West Bank. Tensions between Israel and Palestinian militants have spiralled this week. The flowers along Tel Aviv's seafront today, an uncomfortable reminder that places like this are an easy target against the backdrop of a conflict that seems very difficult to resolve.
Let's get more from Lucy in Tel Aviv now. Lucy, this is yet another incident in what's been a really tense week there.
That's right. We were just talking there about how this is the second incident yesterday that happened. The British-Israeli sisters who were killed in the occupied West Bank as they were driving off on holiday, their Israeli car targeted by gunfire. Their mother is still critically ill in hospital. The past few months have seen a rise in these kinds of ad hoc attacks and also in confrontations between settlers and Palestinians in the West Bank and also between Palestinians and Israeli security forces. But there's no doubt this past week has seen something of a shift, a real rise in tensions between Israel and Palestinian militant groups. We've had dozens of rockets fired from Gaza and from southern Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes in those places as well. And the Israeli Prime Minister has said that he's calling up reserve border forces and reserve units to help deal with the terrorist threat this weekend as Easter converges with Jewish Passover and also the Muslim holy month of Ramadan.
Lucy in Tel Aviv, thank you. A 12-year-old boy accused of murdering a grandmother in Sheffield has been remanded into secure accommodation following an appearance at the city's youth court. 6-year-old Marcia Grant was hit by a car and died in the Green Hill area of the city on Wednesday. Our correspondent Olivia Richwald is outside court for us now. Olivia.
The 12-year-old boy appeared in person at Sheffield Youth Court this morning in a hearing that lasted about half an hour. His age means he cannot be named. He faces 2 charges, the murder of 6-year-old Marcia Grant and possession of a bladed article. He appeared in the dock this morning flanked by 2 security guards. He didn't speak, but he nodded to confirm his name, age and address. He was wearing a pale blue shirt that was too big for him and a knitted navy jumper. He showed no emotions and was remanded into youth detention, and the case was sent to Sheffield Crown Court. Marcia Grant was hit and killed by a car in the Greenhill area of Sheffield on Wednesday evening. Her family have described her as a warm and loving mother, grandmother, sister and friend. And her friends have described her as having a beautiful smile and a beautiful heart. The case will next be heard at Sheffield Crown Court on Tuesday, April the 11th.
Olivia in Sheffield, thank you. China is holding 3 days of patrols and live fire drills off the mainland coast opposite Taiwan. Chinese state media said they were rehearsing the encirclement of the island. The exercises began hours after President Tsai Ing-wen returned from a trip to the United States. The Easter weekend is a key period for churches across the UK, but they are struggling due to the cost of living crisis. Many have stopped running activities and some are having to turn down the heating to save money. Our religion editor Aline McBall reports.
This Easter, many worship services are chillier than normal. In spite of help for energy bills from the Church of England and an extension of the government relief scheme, a lot of parishes are still struggling to meet costs and are turning down their heating and cutting activities. Beautiful as it is, this 12th century church in Wendover wasn't built with efficiency in mind.
In the period from November to March, we've found that our bills have been about £5,000, so about 2.5 times the amount that it was this time last year. And that's with the energy support that's been in place. So had that not been there, it would be £10,000. That's a huge amount of money for us to be finding to keep this church warm.
There are those who see this as an opportunity. St George's Church in Rugby has made the switch to renewable energy.
If you think about combining it with the global warming question and carbon emissions, this is giving us a big incentive to reduce our energy. So in our own church, we fitted solar panels on the roof. And that was quite a difficult project to get people interested in, partly because there weren't the high energy costs at the time.
But in some ways, when the energy bills went up, that helped to get some of that interest, that enthusiasm?
Well, yes, and not only in our church, but because we were a pioneer, people from other churches and other institutions have been in touch asking, for advice as to how to do it.
Of course, making the switch to renewable energy involves an upfront cost, and churches are already stretched. There are calls for more help, not just to pay bills, but for long-term solutions to make sure important services churches offer can be safeguarded. Aline McBall, BBC News.
Play was suspended on the second day of the Masters as trees fell near spectators at the 17th hole after high winds. American Brooks Koepka leads the pack, and Northern Ireland's Rory McIlroy's hopes of securing the elusive green jacket look to be over, as Andy Swiss reports.
Yeah, oh, they're right there. Oh my goodness!
Oh
boy!
Oh wow!
My goodness, that is
the moment the Masters came close to disaster. 3 trees crashing down among spectators by the 17th hole. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but it was the luckiest of escapes. Organisers later said high winds had brought them down. Play had previously been interrupted by the weather, and as staff set about removing the trees, action was suspended for the day. Well, with more heavy rain forecast, the weather interruptions may not be over. And after those dramatic scenes on the 17th hole, the organisers say the safety of everyone here is their top priority. Some players are still to complete their second rounds, but America's Brooks Koepka is setting the pace. He leads by 3, with amateur Sam Bennett among his closest rivals, after another remarkable display. As for Rory McIlroy, though, well, his hopes are over. An error-strewn round leaving him some 17 shots adrift. But after the extraordinary end to yesterday, everyone will be hoping it's the golf that takes the headlines. Andy Swiss, BBC News, Augusta.
More than 850 community and charity representatives from across the UK have been invited to attend the coronation of the King next month. Invitations to the ceremony have been extended to hundreds of British Empire Medal recipients, as Helena Wilkinson reports.
Among those who'll be at the coronation service will be heads of state and other royals from around the world. But at the heart of the congregation will be hundreds of local heroes from across the country.
More than 450 people who've been invited here to Westminster Abbey for the coronation service on May the 6th are British Empire Medal recipients. They're people who've been recognised for their achievement or contribution to local communities, and many of them played a big role in supporting during the COVID-19 lockdowns.
Like Julian and Maria Sturdy-Morton from London. During the pandemic, they arranged food parcels for people in need.
Just tell us the moment that you found out that you were going to be invited.
Well, Julian phoned me, I was out, and he said, have you looked at your emails? And I said, no. He said, well, we've got this email. I think it's a scam. Well, you would do, wouldn't you?
Don't touch anything. Don't click anything.
And then we found out it wasn't a scam, and he burst into tears, and I did as well. Well, we still can't quite believe it, but it's amazing. I just can't think of the words.
It's very emotional. It's very strange because there seem to be so many other people who should be there or could be there or have a greater call on being there, and I'm not giving them my ticket.
400 young people representing charities chosen by the King and the Queen Consort and the government are also being invited to a special private viewing of the service at this church, St Margaret's, next to the Abbey. They include members of organisations like the Scouts and St John's Ambulance, who'll be providing support across London on Coronation Day. Around 2,000 guests are expected to be invited to the coronation service, which is just a month away. For some, there are already important decisions to be made.
What are you going to wear, Maria?
Well, again, it depends on the weather. So it's got layers, I think. It's going to have to, and flat shoes.
And a hat.
And a hat, but flat shoes, definitely.
Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
Definitely not heels. The next news on BBC One is at 5:15. Bye for now.
Hello there, good afternoon. Well, it's fine and dry out there for most of us across the UK as we head through the rest of the day. Today, lots of blue skies captured by our weather watcher here in Flintshire, but we do have more high cloud than most of us saw yesterday, and that will be turning the sunshine rather hazy at times. There is more sunshine as we head through the rest of the bank holiday weekend. Just some rain arriving from the west later on. Most of us won't be seeing that until we get to bank holiday Monday morning. Now, this is the satellite picture from earlier on today. You can see just how much sunshine we've got, but also where the areas of cloud are, notably across